Blancpain GT Series race later on today, and it was therefore felt that if they were going to have all of that track time as well as the free practice sessions for this, it would give them a huge advantage over their GT Sports Club rivals. So by not coming out to do free practice, it levels the playing field just a little bit. Bronizeski last year was very impressive in the Blancpain GT Series. He won the Pro-Am title in the Sprint Cup and in the Endurance Cup, and therefore overall. He also won a number of races in this, so he very much is the benchmark driver. But Daniele Perfetti, former British GT champion and a race winner in this last year, is no slouch himself. So if we get those two on the front row, then anticipate fireworks. There is Bronizeski, who drives, intriguingly, a 488 GTE Ferrari. In other words, a car built for the regulations of the World Endurance Championship rather than a GT3 spec car. But dispensation has been allowed for him to drive it. Why a GTE car? Well, the story goes that the GT3 488 was crashed, couldn't be repaired in time. Kessel Racing had this in the truck, which is intriguing in itself because they don't run a 488 GTE, but let's move on. And as the entry had been paid and the team was here and Bronizeski was here anyway, oh well, go on then, okay, it's all right. But quite whose car it is and what the origin of it is still remains something of a mystery. So Michael Bronizeski in this car, given his track record, ought to be the man to beat, but Daniele Perfetti is going to take the fight to him. And then you've got what you might call the regulars in the likes of Philippe Van Glabacher and Anthony Pons. They should be in the mix, plus Carrie Moget as well. But as I say, the provenance of this car fascinates me, and hopefully before tomorrow we'll have got to the bottom of it a bit more. But Bronizeski, as yet, has not done a proper lap time, but at the end of this we should have him right up at the pointy end of the grid, working his way up now towards the exit of the chicane on the Mistral. It'll be fascinating to see how the GTE spec car runs against the GT3 cars, GTE being a little bit quicker because they're more modified. Now we're having lap times cancelled for track limit abuse, and it is Frédéric Jean-Marie Fangio who is the culprit. Track limits was never an issue in the Fangio's day, but they are now. It was 2 oil drums and a straw bale, wasn't it, for Juan Manuel Fangio? But for this Fangio, his third lap time is cancelled because of track limits at turn 10, which I fear will be senior. Right, there is 22, which is currently the fastest car, Alex Demergian, class winner in Blancpain at Monza, but has now stepped back away from an ultra-competitive category, where actually you probably into this get more track time with 2 free practice and a qualifying and 2 races, and you're not sharing the car. You're probably actually behind the wheel for a lot longer than you would be in the regular Blancpain 3-hour races, having to share with 2 other drivers. So Demergian, the Lebanese steel company CEO, has made his debut in this weekend. There is Daniele Perfetti, the confectionery magnate. One of the many brands of his company is Chupa Chups, which is advertised on the side of the car. He was British GT champion a few years back with Michael Caine for David Bartram's Motorbase team, despite not winning a race, but they did win the title, so they got there on points. And Daniele Perfetti was a race winner in this championship at this venue 12 months ago. And we've got 8 minutes of the session remaining, and so where is he in terms of time? Perfetti is 5th. Bronizeski is only 10th fastest. Is this something about keeping your powder dry, not showing your hand and all that? Sandbagging and balanced performance were talking points in GTE Le Mans a week ago. Well, is it going to be the same here? A GTE spec car not being pushed to its extremes, arguably, at least not yet. So Demergian is the fastest, and Anthony Pons' Mercedes is second, and it's 0.130 over second betwixt the two. Third fastest now is Cedric Lima. We've just seen Cyril Lima out in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo race, being a class podium finisher. And now brother Cedric is on track with 4th fastest Patrick Van Glabacher, 5th Daniele Perfetti, whom you're watching, and 6th is Carrie Moget with 7 more minutes of the session to go. So there you've got the Mercedes heading up towards the end of the lap. And Perfetti then to at the end of this lap has got 2 personal bests in sectors, but he's also got a face full of traffic, and that might well be a problem. And we also now have a report that we've got Alexis de Bernardi, number 65, having stopped out on track with 6.5 minutes to go. Over the line goes Perfetti, and he stays 5th fastest. 2 minutes 10.218 is a personal best lap time, but it doesn't help his grid position. Right, despite 65 being stopped on track, the session is still green. There is 65, limping rather than stopping. It's rejoined, it's got going again. This being the Kessel Racing 458 Italia GT3. What does the replay show us? That, oh, he gets a big hit from behind, that's why it went up the escape road. And who was the aggressor? Was that Demergian's Ferrari? 51 is there. That is the AF Corsa Christoph Ulrich 458. But it might be that the rather aggressive Ferrari is looked at again by the officials for that tag. So Alexis de Bernardi is carried on. And we've also had Cedric Lima having to spin, but he too has got going again. So with 5.5 minutes to go, 51 you're looking at, which is the Christoph Ulrich Ferrari, up towards the completion of this lap, which has started off pretty impressively, in fact, with personal best in the sectors. So 10th fastest is Christoph Ulrich, who's come from the 24-hour series, which is the sort of club level endurance championship, before coming into the Blancpain GT Sports Club for this season. And another spinner, that is the older shape Mercedes, run by Gianluca De Lorenzi for Roberto Raineri. So that brings out a yellow flag in the last sector. Up towards the timing line comes Christoph Ulrich. Personal best, and not an improvement means he stays 10th fastest. Back circulating is Raineri. Of course, that was in the last sector, so that was one of the reasons why Ulrich's effort was compromised, because he had to get round the spinning car and slow down accordingly. Roberto Raineri was a spinner in free practice 2 as well, from memory, earlier on in the day. So he heads over the timing line. Track now clear once more. We've got 4.5 minutes on the clock. And where's the next improver going to be? It is possibly going to be Anthony Pons. There's the damage on Demergian's car. Remember when he went into the back of the 65 Kessel Ferrari of Alexis de Bernardi, and goes way, way wide there, coming out of Verrières. So no wonder the Ferrari of de Bernardi was up the escape road, because if it's done that amount of damage to Demergian's car, it was clearly a big hit. So Demergian carries on, but I suspect if we weren't 4 minutes away from the end of the session, that would be a meatball flag for the scrutineers to have him in and make sure that nothing was going to fly off the car, because the headlight's looking a little bit precarious, and can't imagine that that whack has helped it in any way. So battling on is Demergian, but I fear an improvement isn't going to come. He's still got pole position though. He's still 8/10 up on Anthony Pons. Mauro Ricci improved last time to go 7th in his Mercedes on 2 minutes 10.464. But Demergian now down to the braking zone for the chicane on the Mistral. Turns left, turns right, and then left again. It's a more gradual exit than it is entry to that chicane, if you like. It's a very tight start to it, but it's a more gradual bleed back onto the Mistral straight. So with 3 more minutes to go, Anthony Pons last lap was another improvement, but he's still not able to get ahead of this dog-eared Ferrari. And they're going to get about 2 more laps out of the session, aren't they, now, looking at the clock. There is Michael Bronizeski, back out and circulating. Michael, who's not been racing for that many years, but has done a lot of racing, not just this, but the Blancpain Endurance and Sprint Series. He's done the European Le Mans Series. He's been a very, very busy driver. I think I'm right in saying it's been exclusively in Ferraris, and so he understands a Ferrari GT car very, very well indeed. And rarely does he put it off the road. He did, in fairness, in qualifying at Zolder for the sprint round a few weeks ago, but it was a rarity seeing him do that. And he works his way now towards the end of a lap that has got 2 personal bests in it. So Michael Bronizeski, 12th fastest. And let's see what the improvement is going to be as he comes now up towards the timing line. So the Polish driver breaks the beam, and where does that put him? Only 11th. Again, he lost out in that last sector. So he seems to be good in the first 2, which are the grunt and go sectors, but the twisty technical third is where it goes awry for him. Now, Alex Demergian, who is the fastest driver, he has to go, along with the team manager, to the stewards at the end of the session. And that, I suspect, is all to do with the contact on the Alexis de Bernardi Ferrari that we saw a little while ago. So the stewards want a word, perhaps understandably. And the drivers then with, what have we got? A minute and a half still to go. Circulate, except for Demergian now, who bails for the pit lane, probably to go and get the damage taped up, and also to prepare his case for the stewards. There's the car that's second fastest, 72, Anthony Pons, 8/10ths back from Demergian. But he was the driver that vaulted to the top of the times right at the very end of free practice 2. Is he going to do the same here? Pons is another driver that's raced at a high level. He's raced in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. He's done LMS races, but should put that experience to good use. This car that is run by ACA ASP, one of the experienced Mercedes teams, Jérôme Policon's team within the Blancpain series. And Pons about to work his way onto the Mistral straight now then, with the clock ticking on down. So the last few seconds to be looking away. We've had Karim Auger go fourth fastest in number 2 BMW. We've not really seen that car in the session, but Karim Auger just gets on with the job, brings down the lap time. Daniele Perfetti, again, this could be a driver keeping his powder dry, but he's only 5th fastest, not being quite as sparkling as people expected him to be. But from Daniele's point of view, he's getting a bit of track time in before the main Blancpain race later on, and also concentrating on that rather than this for his afternoon's work. He needs to do the laps in this session to make sure he's qualified for the race, but if he needs to overtake people, well, that can be done in the first 25 minutes of tomorrow's session on track. But he wants to remain fairly fresh, doesn't he? For 6 hours, he won't do the full 6 hours, I know, but for certainly 2 hours of time behind the steering wheel of the Mercedes later on this evening. Anthony Pons, meantime, will come up in a moment to take the checkered flag. Session is at an end, and the Mercedes then on this lap, a personal best in sector 1, down a little bit in sector 2, heads up towards the timing line, 2 minutes 8.4 to beat, and a 2 minutes 8.601 means that he doesn't get pole, but he narrows the gap from 8/10ths to 1/10th. Up to third has gone Claude-Yves Gosselin right at the very end in number 4 Lamborghini, and that means that this car of Patrick Van Glabbeker is only 7th, and Van Glabbeker, who was quick in free practice, has done a personal best in sector 1, but he's down in sector 2, and now hustles his way up towards the completion of the lap. An improvement has just come from Mauro Ricci. He's gone 7th, so Van Glabbeker is now down to 8th in 4.88. The man who runs Curbstone, and he rounds up the curb. The company, the track day company based here at Paul Ricard, heads over the timing line. There is the checkered flag. Does Van Glabbeker improve? The answer is yes. He goes 4th fastest on a 2:09.257. So Patrick Van Glabbeker right at the end goes quicker. And 51 here, which is Christoph Ulrich. He's not yet taken the flag, but he's not going to improve either, with neither sector 1 nor sector 2 being quicker than before. There is the checkered flag for him. So he comes over the timing line, rounds out the session, 10th quickest. But could there be a grid drop going to 22 Alex Demergian? He has got the fastest time, but after that contact with Alexis de Bernardi, there is no guarantee that he's going to necessarily be on pole position. Depends what the stewards feel. It certainly looked as though he was the guilty party getting into the back of the Ferrari, but they will have access to the track CCTV cameras as well as the television feed, and can then make a judgment on whether a penalty needs to be applied. More to take the checkered flag include their 52, which is Frédéric Fangio, who bails early and will head for the pit lane. So everybody done and dusted, and it means therefore that the fastest time is set by Alex Demergian, a 10th of a second up on Anthony Pons, who again did it late in the session, did that same trick as free practice 2 of putting in the gun time right at the very end, ahead of Claude-Yves Gosselin, one of his best qualifying efforts, and then Patrick Van Glabbeker ahead of Cedric Lima and Karim Auger. Daniele Perfetti 7th from Mauro Ricci, and then Luigi Lucchini and Christoph Ulrich to round out the top 10. Daniel Voigt quite a long way back, as also Nico van Dierendonck, who's often a front runner. Steve Earle only 17th and behind his Iron Cup class opposition, and Roberto Raineri after his spin ending up 24th and last, but 7.5 seconds or so covering the full 24 cars. So look back on one or two of the highlights of the session, which included Michael Bronizeski joining the party, with Daniele Perfetti also new, having not done the free practice sessions, both of whom we'll see on track later on in the evening here. There was the tangle between Alex Demirjian and Alexis de Bernardi, which ended up with this man, Demirjian, being summoned to see the stewards at the end of the session. He's on his way. 963 was a spinning car. That was Cedric Lima's Lamborghini, but he got himself to 5th. And we will look forward then to what should be 2 lively races for the Blancpain GT Sports Club tomorrow. The qualifying race is at 10 to 11 tomorrow morning, so join us for that if you can. For now, from David Addison, from Paul Ricard, bye-bye.